not vote for Joe Biden. Stop fucking trying to get me to vote for Joe Biden. Yes, I know. Cheeto man bad. Cheeto man very bad. But Joe Biden isn't going to help us the way you think he is. I get it. You're scared. You have good reason to be. You're worried about climate change, you're worried about state authoritarianism, you're worried about racism and white supremacy and threats to the rights of LBGT people and women. But voting for Joe Biden isn't going to help on those fronts. You've been sold a lie. And I will not vote for him. Look, if you decide to vote for Biden, I'm not going to blame you and I won't judge you. But here's why I'm not going to support him, and why I highly recommend you not support him either. The worst possible reason to vote for Joe Biden is the belief that we have no other choice. We do actually have other options. Literally so. There are 2 other candidates on the ticket who have access to at least 270 electoral votes. Joe Jorgensen of the Libertarian Party, and Howie Hawkins of the Green Party, who I plan to vote for. A vote for a third party is a vote for Donald Trump. No, dipshit, a vote for Donald Trump is a vote for Donald Trump. Are those candidates likely to win? No, but the only reason they're not likely to win is because people don't vote for them. We are not actually trapped in a 2-party system, though we may be psychologically trapped. It is actually possible to create new political parties, and for existing small parties to grow into big parties. We could, if we wanted to, create a working class party, one that working people could join, pay dues, and vote to decide which candidates were going to run and what the party platform should be. One where party leadership is held strictly accountable and corporate funders are not welcome. This is a long-term goal, and probably not something that will happen by November. But the first step towards such a goal is to realize that the Democratic Party are not our friends. We do have other options besides voting for Biden, and we have other options besides voting, period. Voting is a tiny plastic water gun in the vast nuclear arsenal we have at our disposal when it comes to political activity. Many times throughout history, even the most nasty reactionary asshole presidents suddenly start acting real progressive when they are faced with mass populist movements causing civil unrest. This also applies to senators, congresspersons, and members of the court. Remember Richard Nixon passing landmark women's rights legislation? In fact, the level of political activity of the masses is 8 million times more important than who is in the White House in determining political outcomes. Where we should really be focusing our efforts is organizing and movement building. Protest, go on strike, propagandize, obstruct, disrupt, and most importantly, join an organization. Join an org. Join an org. Join labor unions. Join political parties. Join nonprofits. Becoming a dues-paying member of a socialist organization is worth 1,000 votes. You will meet experienced comrades who know the ins and outs of political activism, who will show you the ropes, and you will be put to work doing something productive. Join the Democratic Socialists of America. Join the industrial workers of the world. Join the International Marxist Tendency or the International Socialist Alternative. There are a myriad of different types of organizations you can join, from all sorts of leftist tendencies that perform all sorts of different functions for the greater movement. We do have other options, and the most important options are outside the ballot box entirely. Biden isn't less than perfect. He is a mustache-twirling supervillain. Joe Biden is not a liberal. He is a center-right conservative. He embraces neoliberal policies that leave working-class people to die in poverty and debt. He has made no serious attempts to cater toward Bernie Sanders' base. He is unspeakably racist and actually wrote the bill that created mass incarceration as we currently know it. As part of the Obama administration, he was complicit in all of Obama's abominations. Abominations. He was complicit in all of Obama's crimes against working class people. From drone strike programs which killed countless civilians, including American citizens, by the way, to the escalation of a draconian surveillance state, to the mass deportation of 3 million immigrants. Obama created the structures that Trump is currently using to terrorize immigrants, minorities, and protesters. And he created those things for the very purpose Trump is using them for. Biden was there every step along the way. Biden has espoused violent rhetoric about doing violence against protesters, arresting people with certain political beliefs, and condoning police brutality. Biden is maybe better on 2 issues: abortion rights and LBGT rights. And while those issues are important, I don't really trust him to make any progress on those. He has said over and over again that he would pander to the Republicans and compromise with them every chance he gets. He certainly has stated callous disregard for the lives of working class people, and we can only assume that he will betray women's rights and LBGT rights the moment he finds it politically convenient. And please, do not give me that bullcrap about RBG. Biden will not replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg with another liberal. He will replace her with a centrist like Obama sorta tried to do. Or do what Obama really did and let the Republicans pick the replacement for him. And also, the Supreme Court is a tyrannical, undemocratic institution anyway that should probably be abolished, full stop. Joe Biden's rhetoric isn't really that much better than Trump's either. He says racist, sexist, classist things all of the time out loud. And with his billionaire and corporate backers, he certainly can't be trusted to act on climate change. The COVID-19 crisis is probably the most important issue this election for many Americans. And to be fair, the COVID plan Joe Biden has on his website sounds okay, better than what Trump is doing, which is nothing. But what Biden promises to do and what he will do are 2 completely different things. You know, we all remember Obama promising hope and change and to end the war in Iraq. And if we look to Biden's Democratic colleagues in Congress for clues as to how he might respond to COVID, that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Again, the Democrats are better than the Republicans and have been insisting that COVID-related legislation throw at least some bones to the working class, but being better than the Republicans is a very low bar. The Democrats haven't proposed any type of universal basic income to allow people to stay home from work and quarantine themselves. They're allowing the economy to reopen when COVID cases are through the roof. I don't think the Dems have much of a plan to help people who are about to be evicted from their homes due to loss of income. They haven't demanded mass testing. And they certainly don't intend to force manufacturers to produce COVID supplies or force hospitals to hire more staff. Worst of all, the DNC this month voted down making Medicare for All part of their platform. Like, think about that. The United States is one of the only, if not the only, wealthy industrialized country without any form of public healthcare program. We're in the middle of a pandemic in which large numbers of people are getting sick. And also, many people have just lost their employer-provided health insurance. People need healthcare right now, and many don't have access to it. And the Democrats had the opportunity to try and fix that problem, and they voted it down. How callous do you have to be to vote down universal public health care in the middle of a combination plague and economic depression? Biden himself certainly is against Medicare for all. And that basically is Joe Biden and the Democratic Party in a nutshell. They, like the Republicans, are more interested in making sure their wealthy donors make it through the crisis with their profits intact than in making sure American people enjoy a basic standard of living. They don't care about us. And we shouldn't reward the Democrats with our loyalty just for being marginally less evil than the Republicans. Joe Biden isn't the lesser of two evils. He's just evil. Hot take. It doesn't actually matter who the president is. Donald Trump is not the cause of our problems. He isn't. Donald Trump is a lone, fat asshole with a desk job, just like every president before him. Donald Trump did not invent racism. He did not invent sexism or xenophobia or hatred against LBGT people. If Donald Trump died tomorrow, the forces of reaction would carry on their merry way. Trump is in office because he is willing to carry out the policies that are favorable to the ruling class, and the moment he stopped doing that, he would be quickly disposed of, either by impeachment, a military coup, or the withdrawal of support for his campaign. And seeing how many powerful people, including Republicans, are rallying behind Biden, it looks like the last option is what they're probably going to do. Trump is a symptom of the problem, not the problem itself. All of the terrible things he doesn't really do any of them. He has thousands and thousands of willing participants who do the dirty work for him while he sits at his desk eating cheeseburgers. The military and law enforcement, fellow elected politicians, appointed judges, the masses of those crazed petty bourgeoisie Leon Trotsky warned us about. And the reason they are willing to do those evil things Trump tells them to do is because they kind of wanted to do them anyway. And it's not just the Republicans who are guilty of authoritarian violence. The Democrats do it too. See my aforementioned examples of Obama's abominations. The violence we see from the Trump administration doesn't come from some diseased, irrational ideology unique to the American right wing. It's a product of class-based society itself. Let me explain. So let's think about this a little more carefully. Why do we have a government in the first place? You know, a government, the state, the law itself. I don't mean what the government is supposed to be for, or what the government says its purpose is. I mean the actual, practical, material function that the government plays. The reason it exists and the reason the ruling class allows it to continue existing. Its function is not to negotiate peace between different conflicting classes, because they are obviously very bad at that. It's not to ensure the public good and protect the rights of its citizens, obviously. The reason we have a state is to enforce and maintain class-based society. The state is nothing more than armed bodies of men who exist for the purpose of allowing one class to suppress another class. I'm not the one who came up with that. The government's job is to suppress uprisings, control the working class, assume risk on behalf of the capitalists, to fight wars on behalf of the capitalists. That's why the feds are kidnapping protesters. That's why immigrants are being put in cages. That's why the police harass and intimidate Black people, to maintain and enforce the power structure. All of these bad things happened when Obama was president, and all of those bad things will continue to happen if Biden is elected. This violence we're seeing isn't the result of Trump. You can't even call it fascism, because fascism is a specific political phenomena that occurs under very specific, unusual circumstances. What we're seeing now is normal, actually. This violence is literally just the bourgeois state doing its job. I'm sorry, kids. What you're watching is capitalism. This is what capitalism looks like without the Instagram filters. The only reason it seems unusually bad now is because the economy has been going through a rough patch over the past decade, and the contradictions of capitalism are starting to reach a snapping point. Happens every several years. The right and left parties represent different segments of the ruling class, and the election process is about the ruling class negotiating differences among itself. The Democratic Party does not represent the interests of regular people like you and me, even though they do pander to the working class more than the Republicans do. They are not your friends, and you do not owe them your votes. Voting for Biden isn't harm reduction. It is in itself a harm. A Biden victory could have several different negative consequences. If Biden wins, it could trigger a violent backlash from Trump's far-right base. It could pacify a lot of the militant but less educated segments of the working class who have swallowed the rhetoric that Biden is their ally. They will disperse from the streets, and Biden will be completely free to continue his violent, racist, war-hawkish, neoliberal agenda that Trump, Obama, and Bush did before him. The Democratic Party will continue its decades-long drift toward the right. The Democratic leadership will see once and for all that they can get away with running any sleazy evil candidate they want, who will serve the interests of their corporate benefactors, and that the public will remain loyal as long as they can coat their sleaziness with woke rhetoric. As long as you'll say to yourself, "Oh well, I guess they're the lesser of two evils." If the Democrats learn that you will vote for them no matter what they do, then your vote loses all of its power. Conclusion. Joe Biden is not our friend. The Democratic Party are not our friends. Trump is awful, and he sucks. If we don't vote for Biden, Trump will win the presidential race. But considering that Biden himself is very evil, and that Trump is not the true cause of the violence and hatred we see coming from our government, the stakes in this race are a lot lower than you have been led to believe. A protest vote would send a strong message to the ruling class that we are dissatisfied, that we will no longer tolerate their racist, violent, neoliberal leadership, and that we want real change. Also, we are not actually stuck in the two-party system. There's a growing movement within the United States to create and grow a workers' party that represents truly progressive ideas, and the first step to building such a party is to let the Democrats go and stop placing our hopes in people who do not care about us. But the most important thing to remember, the ballot box is not the end-all and be-all of political activity. The ruling class has created this little ceremony of voting and has convinced us that it's the most important form of political activity we can do, inviting us working class folks to come and play their little game of pick the dictator, giving us the illusion that all of this makes a difference, and making us feel like we have a little bit of control over something we have no control over. But after elections, we don't really have any way of holding politicians in office accountable when they break their campaign promises, and we are only allowed to vote for the options the ruling class allows us to see on the ballots. We do have power to change the system, but we have to do it outside the ruling class's terms. We have to be organized and active and militant enough that the ruling class believes we pose an actual threat to their authority. We have to do the same type of things we currently see Americans doing on the streets right now, causing disruption and threatening the capitalist profits, threatening the ruling class's sense of authority and control. And we have to, of course, remain organized and militant even after the current wave of protests dies down. We do that by building left-wing institutional power. We do that by joining orgs. Join a goddamn org, you cowards! I will not vote for Joe Biden. Your fear-mongering and emotional blackmail will not work on me, establishment Democrats. Yeah, join an org. Tell Biden to go fuck himself. Fuck you, Joe Biden. Eat a dick. You too, Kamala. Fuck you. How about we go make some real political progress? You know what I mean?